Hi, my name is Ryan Payton, and I'm a designer at a company that I started called Camouflage in Seattle, Washington. So as somebody with experience with Kickstarter, we did crowdfunding for our game Republic, and I can say from personal experience now that the whole business of asking fans to fund your game development is not only is a very strange concept, but it's something that I think motivates creators to even do better than they normally would. And what I mean by that is that it's not just money that's coming from an investor or from a publisher, where you have something of a disconnect. It to me, especially with our game, and I think with Shenmue as well, it feels like you're borrowing money from your friends and family, and that you have this deep obligation and desire to do right by them. And so I'd like to think that when it comes to the Shenmue Kickstarter, that every dollar that's going into the project is there's some kind of love associated with that, and that the love has to go into the game, that the more love will come out of the game, because again, it's not a cold transaction. We're all in this thing together, and I think that's like what the beauty of crowdfunding really is. Yeah, I mean, I fully expect the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter to have the biggest launch of any Kickstarter in history. I think that's going to be an amazing event. It's going to feel like a party. It's going to feel like a celebration. I think of what, as a representation of what passionate fans could do for something that they love so much as a series like Shenmue. And I couldn't be more excited about that. It feels like Christmas, Christmas come in July or June or whatever. And I just can't wait for that day to see, not only for fans, I think, to be finally recognized and finally see that, wow, there is a continuation. There is this chance that we can have this. But for the rest of the world, the guys that may or may not understand what Shenmue is all about, to really look back and observe, that, wow, there are so many people that have such a passion for this game and respect for this game. And I'm hoping that they can come along for the ride, because I think it's going to be really exciting. I think crowdfunding is definitely a hint in terms of the future, allowing fans to take control of the things that they love. And I think I can't think of a better representation of the fans, of video game fans finally getting what they've always been asking for, and that is a sequel to Shenmue. I mean, even like 4 years ago, even this kind of discussion would have been, I think, laughed at. But now is the time. Now it's the right time to bring this franchise back to life, via the fans, via Kickstarter. So I think Yu Suzuki is like one of those really special creators in the sense that they really push boundaries. You can see that with all of his games. It was all about what are we doing now, and like this is where we want to take games. And I think you can see that with Virtua Fighter and Virtua Racing and Space Harrier, all these different games that he worked on. And I think when it comes to specifically to Shenmue, to me, from my perspective, it was how far can we take storytelling. And I always have respected his ambition, and I've always looked up to him and other Japanese creators that clearly were trying to push the boundaries in terms of what's possible. And they would spend a lot of money. They would work with huge teams. They would really push hardware, and I think probably upset a lot of people in their wake. But I think just like really famous directors like a David Lean or like a Stanley Kubrick, as much as they, for whatever flack they took in the process of making their creations, I think that the scale and the epicness of what they're trying to do is of the utmost importance for them. And again, as somebody like me who loves big, epic double albums and huge, tomes of books and that kind of level of ambition, that's why I think I'm such a fan of his work. Yeah, I think the natural approach to the creation of Shenmue has really, I think you can see the influence of it in games today in terms of the openness of the game, all the little details that normally any game developer wouldn't have bothered with in the 90s with the release of the first two Shenmue games, like with the day-night cycles and the way that the NPCs have schedules and all these things that seemed like so frivolous and unimportant to a lot of critics, I think, at the time. Now you're just seeing it as like a really common thing in a lot of especially open world games these days. And so I think, the influence of Shenmue is already very apparent when you look at modern games today. But then when it comes to that fourth disc of Shenmue 2, where you're walking around the forest with Shenhua, I like to think that might be like the next step for games as well. I mean, you're seeing that sometimes right now with like indie titles where they're not looking to They don't feel like they need to have an explosion every 30 seconds, and you're starting to see that there's other gameplay experiences, those story experiences you can have that outside of just like the normal kind of moment-to-moment action. And I like to, I always point that back to that fourth disc as like, this is where we could go as an industry, and some place where I do hope we do go, and where we do end up as an industry. So to me, Shenmue in 2015, what that game represents is it's the holy grail, it's the white whale of crowdfunding, of Kickstarter. It's the game that I think everybody thinks is like the final destination when it comes to fans coming together and getting a sequel to a game that they've loved for many, many years. I can't think of a better game that's like suited for this big explosion of excitement when it comes to working with the community and bringing a game and resurrecting a series, from a very, very long hibernation. And so to me, I just get goosebumps thinking about, going back into that world and seeing where the story is going to continue, because a lot of people who aren't familiar with Shenmue don't really understand the absolute trauma, like the traumatic, painful existence of what we all have for so many years, like wanting to know where the story's headed. Because we all know that the game was created from the very beginning with such scope and scale, with so many different chapters, and we know that we've only been able to taste only the first few chapters through the first two games. And so it's been literally a decade and more, and some change. So I'll say that again, but it's literally been a decade and some change of fans getting onto forums, myself included, hypothesizing about where the story's headed. And it's been such an excruciating experience that I just get really, really excited thinking about, wow, we might be able to return to this world and see what the next step for Ryo is going to be as a character.